Exclusive contracted novel by Huairu Novel Network. Siheyuan. Bringing back He Daqing, all the beasts are confused. Traveling through the courtyard in 1965, he became the younger brother of silly Zhu, He Yudong. At this point, silly Zhu was already addicted to licking the widow, and even brought his younger brother He Yudong to lick together. Silly Zhu. My family adopted you and asked you, a white-eyed wolf, to give some money to help Qin Jia. What's wrong? So much so that all of He Yudong's salary was taken away by the foolish pillar, showing filial piety to Qin Huairu. At the beginning, He Yudong was threatened by a foolish pillar and forced to donate. Although the problem has been solved, He Yudong realizes that treating the symptoms is not the root cause. Subsequently, He Yudong went far to secure a reservation and decisively brought it back to He Daqing. At this point, the courtyard became lively and the animals panicked. The Jia family can't absorb the blood of the foolish pillar anymore. Zhonghai's embezzlement of money from the He family has also been exposed. Zhonghai's reputation has been greatly damaged and on the brink of danger, and even his broken leg did not anticipate this step. Huairu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 001. Becoming Silly Zhu's younger brother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In 1965, the quadrangle courtyard in Beijing. He Yudong, who got up from bed, looked at the decorations and furniture in front of him for a moment. Later, I temporarily accepted that I had truly traveled. Moreover, according to the perspective, it is still a world filled with emotions and courtyards that one travels through. It's better to say that the birds are deceiving the courtyard than to say that they are full of love. On this point, He Yudong has a deep understanding. His identity in this courtyard is He Yuzhu's younger brother, He Yudong. It's not biological, but adopted back by He Daqing in earlier years. After He Daqing left, the three brothers relied on each other for their livelihoods. He Yudong is a relatively honest and obedient person, and he has always been grateful for the kindness of He Daqing in his heart. Gradually, it led to He Yudong becoming a bullying character. Just like silly pillars, everyone knows that silly pillars lick widows. In this life, with his cheap younger brother, things have become even worse. On ordinary days, as soon as my salary is paid, I am asked to leave by the foolish pillar. The reason is also very good: without me, where would your family have today? Give me some money, what's wrong? He Yudong is grateful and has made compromises many times before. The 38.6 yuan from the second-level fitter was basically given to the foolish pillar, and then filial piety was given to the widow, Qin Huairu. He Yudong smiled. Was the honesty and gratitude of our predecessor the result of this fate? After getting up, the reason why he felt pain all over and his face was swollen and red was because he received his salary yesterday, and silly Zhu came to ask He Yudong for money again. This time, He Yudong did not compromise. Refusing the silly pillar in exchange for a beating and scolding. No wonder it's a world full of birds in a courtyard house, it's simply beyond the past. Dog days, silly pillar. Just finished cursing, He Yudong got up from bed. Click. The door was pushed open. Stupid Zhu walked in with a frown as he walked in with square steps. He glanced at He Yudong angrily and said, "Get up." He Yudong responded calmly. "Get up and hold the meeting. I'm telling you this time, today we're donating money to the Jia family. You better be sensible, Qin's family is living a difficult life. You pay 38 yuan a month. Can you help them out? Remember to donate more." He Yudong looked at silly Zhu like a fool. Silly pillar, as the name suggests. Even if I was treated as a vampire by a widow, would I still be with my younger brother? For the silly pillar, He Yudong can be considered as having a thorough understanding. In this world, kindness can only be deceived by others. The silly pillar who finished speaking walked out directly. Huairu was waiting at the door. Pillar, how's it going? Has your brother agreed? He Yuzhu saw Huairu, whom he was longing for, and chuckled. He dares. If he doesn't donate more, I won't break his leg. Humph. It's okay, I'm here. Huairu calmed down and said, Pillar, it's thanks to you. Otherwise, I really don't know how life goes. Hee hee. Silly Zhu scratched his head with a silly smile on his face. Silly Pillar, hee hee. The words have just finished. There was a sudden ding in He Yudong's mind. Ding punishing the binding of animal and poultry systems. The necessary system for travelers, this is familiar to He Yudong. How to use it? The host only needs to punish the animals, regardless of their size, and can receive corresponding rewards. Ding, have you received the beginner gift pack? Yes. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the full-level military sports fist skill, with a hidden space of 10 acres. Novice gift package, He Yudong is quite satisfied. We have a meeting, we have a meeting. There was a lot of shouting outside the room. He Yudong came to the mirror and looked at his face. She has a very delicate appearance, and at the age of 20, she is white and tender, with a hint of heroism between her eyebrows. Just the palm print on the face appeared very prominent at this moment. Dog thing, I really want to see what color you give me. He Yudong thought to himself. As for what kind of nurturing kindness, He Yudong has already opened up. If you want to live well in this era, you must have a clear relationship with Silly Zhu. Thinking and thinking, He Yudong walked towards the outside of the house. The courtyard has already gathered many people. Zhonghai, Lu Haizhong, Yan Bugue. 3 people were sitting at a square table, almost everyone had arrived. Zhonghai directly enters the theme. Zhonghai stood up and said, I'm calling everyone over this time because of the Jia family. The days of the Jia family are visible to our neighbors in the courtyard. It's been a tough time. So I discussed with the other 2 gentlemen to organize a donation, and everyone should do their best to make our courtyard harmonious and loving, right? Zhonghai just finished speaking. Yes, what the old man said is right, agreed the idiot. I'll give everyone a heads up, silly pillar. I'll donate 10 yuan. Many people took a deep breath of air conditioning. This silly pillar is really foolish. 10 yuan is enough to feed a family of 3 for a month. Upon hearing that Silly Zhu had donated so much, Huairu smiled at him with gratitude in her eyes. Silly Zhu sees it in his eyes and enjoys it in his heart. Reply with a glance, as if saying, this is all I should do. Zhonghai nodded in satisfaction and said, the pillar is well made, so you should be responsible for receiving the payment. Okay. The next second, Silly Zhu approached He Yudong and said, good brother, how much do you plan to donate? After speaking, he gave He Yudong a few fierce looks. Hinting that He Yudong would donate a little more, he waved his fist, indicating a hint of threat. Looking at Silly Zhu, he looks like a clown. He Yudong shook his head strangely. I'm sorry, this time I asked for money to be useful. I won't donate a penny. Moreover, this donation should not be mandatory. A hint of disbelief appeared on Silly Zhu's face. What happened to my usually obedient younger brother today? Silly Zhu whispered, He Yudong, don't be shameless. If you don't donate, don't blame me for going back and making it difficult for you to eat. After speaking, Silly Zhu waved his fist again, Qingming outing in happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 002. Why does He Yudong owe you a silly pillar? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Faced with the threat of silly pillars, He Yudong said lightly, roll the calf. If you want to lick the widow, you can lick it yourself. Don't drag me along. I'm not interested in her. Everyone. Although He Yudong's voice was not loud, everyone present could hear it clearly. Everyone's chins almost fell to the ground. Eyes filled with disbelief. When has He Yudong, an ordinary and honest person who is easy to bully, been so tough? And he even told silly Zhu to get lost. Oh my goodness, He Yudong is going to suffer today. Yeah, yesterday I saw silly Zhu beating He Yudong because he didn't lend money to the widow. Okay, this kid needs to be beaten up again today. Zhonghai immediately stood up and presided over justice. He Yudong, how can you talk to your brother? He's your brother. What's wrong with asking you to donate some money? Even if you're not willing, you shouldn't curse people. What else is there to lick a widow? Did you talk like that? This crooked but thing. He Yudong was also not polite. How do I talk to silly Zhu? We have nothing to do with each other. A meddlesome thing. He Yudong's tough attitude once again made everyone dumbfounded. Is this still the same He Yudong they know? What surprised me the most was Zhonghai. What's wrong with He Yudong today? Why is it so tough? Are you not afraid of retaliation when the time comes? Zhonghai said, He Yudong, I'm an old man, you guy. He Yudong interrupted, hee. Grandpa. Anyone can hear the sarcasm inside and outside of He Yudong's words. Silly Zhu had already become angry and ashamed. Biting his teeth, he said word by word, what? Rain. Dong. Don't be shameless. Don't let me deal with you here. Apologize to an old man quickly. He Yudong looked straight at the silly pillar, his eyes completely as if he was looking at a second fool. The group of people in the courtyard. Especially Zhonghai, knowing that silly Zhu likes widows, he added fuel to the situation. Silly Zhu was extremely grateful and obedient to Zhonghai's words. To say why silly Zhu is obsessed with the widow Huairu, Zhonghai has half of the reason. Especially when it comes to asking He Yudong to pay his salary to the widow, even his butt can think of it. Designating it is a devilish idea from Zhonghai. That's your grandfather, not mine. I won't donate a penny to anyone who loves this money today. And, is life really difficult for the Jia family? Silly pillar, you bring food to Huairu's house every day and borrow money from Huairu. Hee. Maybe the Jia family is doing well without you. Stupid things. Silly Zhu was momentarily speechless. Huairu and Jia Jiaqiu's face immediately turned black because of He Yudong's words. There are no two reasons, what He Yudong said is all the truth. Huairu herself already has a salary. But can they admit it? That's not possible. Huairu was stunned and burst into tears. He Yudong, how did our Jia family provoke you? Woo. Are you going to bully us like this? Does it mean that our Jia family must starve to death one or two to make life difficult? Woo. It's truly a white lotus. I used to only listen to nominal names, but I haven't seen them yet. This time, He Yudong has seen it. His beloved Huairu cried, and the silly pillar in front of him immediately became anxious. Regardless of whether what He Yudong just said is reasonable or not. Anyway, bullying Qin's sister is not acceptable. He Yudong. I didn't clean up your kid for just one day and planned to turn things around, didn't I? As he spoke, silly Zhu grabbed directly at He Yudong's collar with one hand. Everyone couldn't help but grin. He Yudong is going to suffer. The scene of silly pillar tidying up He Yudong is very common in the courtyard, and many people almost take it for granted. See here. Even Zhonghai sneered in his heart. Annoying guy, someone's going to take care of you now. He is quite happy to see such a scene. However. Next second. Everyone was stunned. He Yudong didn't know where the strength came from, so he grabbed silly Zhu's hand. A pair of cold eyes looked at silly Zhu. Are you going to hit me? Silly Zhu's hand was pinched and he felt very unhappy. Bunny, let go of me. I won't kill you today. Humph. He Yudong threw the silly pillar to the ground with an over-shoulder fall. Looking at silly Zhu's face, there was an indescribable disgust in his heart. I really couldn't hold back. There are two big mouths in front of silly Zhu. Pop pop. He Yudong feels comfortable now. Looking down at silly Zhu with a smile on his face, he said, are you more sober now? Dog thing. Silly Zhu struggled hard and wanted to counterattack. You're still cursing. Pop. It's another big mouth. The crowd hissed. Silly Zhu sat on the ground, feeling both shy and angry. He Yudong. You let go of me. I'm telling you, you're ruined. Did my family adopt you and cultivate a white-eyed wolf like you? You're done, I'll tell you. Zhonghai quickly stopped He Yudong and said, He Yudong, what are you doing? You're hitting your brother like this. Is there still a way out? Silly Zhu. Don't worry, Grandpa. Today, He Yudong said, all right, don't make a fuss and start a fire, silly pillar. Since you don't like me, then we can split up. In the future, you will have yours, and I will have mine. From now on, there will be no further involvement. A pair of eyes, full of disbelief, looked at He Yudong. He Yudong has awakened, someone whispered. That's right, what do you think? Your brother bullies you every day for a widow, what do you think? A person with lingering fear said, so, don't push honest people into a hurry. He Yudong's monthly salary is over 38 yuan. Even if he separates, he can still live a normal life, which is quite foolish. Since his father left, Huairu has been completely obsessed with it. Look at a chef's younger brother and sister, how thin they are. That's quite true. All of these discussions naturally fell into the ears of He Yudong. He Daqing. A figure appeared in He Yudong's mind. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 003. The decision is to secure a reservation and retrieve He Daqing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Because of the matter with He Yudong. At this moment, the courtyard is bustling with activity. He Yudong among the crowd was not affected. On the contrary, upon hearing the name He Daqing, my mind immediately became active. Who is He Daqing? That's silly Zhu's biological father. In May 1st, I abandoned my family and left with a widow surnamed Bai to secure a place. The current situation. Although foolish pillar is excessive, He Yudong also took action and taught a lesson. However, according to He Yudong's understanding of silly pillar, it is simply a temporary solution rather than a fundamental solution. A foolish beating ruined today's donation. It seems that He Yudong won, but what about the future? Even if it were to split up, it had nothing to do with silly Zhu, but He Yudong had already offended Zhonghai, the Jia family, and his cheap brother silly Zhu to death. If He Daqing comes back at this time. Zhonghai's retirement plan. The monthly relief money given to silly Zhu for corruption. And He Daqing definitely wouldn't have watched his son being sucked by the Jia family, would he? Is silly Zhu still an unmarried young man, marrying a widow? Even if Jia Jiaqiu can agree, how can Daqing agree? After a brief thought, He Yudong had already figured out the pros and cons of the matter. No, if we bring He Daqing back, it would be a situation where the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. He Yudong, you. Look at what you've done to your brother, you still have to split up. Can you justify what He Daqing adopted you for back then? Zhonghai asked coldly. He Yudong looked at silly pillar. The two faces of the silly pillar have already been flushed by He Yudong's drawing. Ha! Get lost. He Yudong kicked the silly pillar again. In front of everyone. Silly pillar was kicked to the side. Before Zhonghai and others could react, He Yudong walked towards the courtyard outside. This guy. Zhonghai gritted his teeth and looked at He Yudong. He Yuzhu. He Yudong, you bastard, if you have the ability, you will never come back in your lifetime. A donation was turned into a farce by He Yudong. The Jia family suffered the greatest losses. Jia Jiaqiu was scared by He Yudong's aura just now, and there was no sound. The two of them crossed their waist and said, He Yudong, this little brat, is against my Jia family. Silly pillar, take a look at what kind of younger brother you have raised. I'm just a white-eyed wolf, and I have to split up with you. TSK, wolf heart and dog lung. Qin Huairu cried and complained, I haven't provoked He Yudong. Woo, why can't we get along with my Jia family? Seeing my beloved Qin Huairu crying. Every drop of tears that falls makes Silly Zhu feel extremely heartbroken. Silly Zhu bared his teeth and stood up in embarrassment. Qin Jia, it's all his fault this time. I will definitely teach him a lesson afterwards. Don't worry, isn't there me left? I'll lend your house another 20 later, and it won't make your life difficult. It can also be considered filling a hole for this kid. Everyone. It seems that I can understand why He Yudong was so impulsive just now. Qin Huairu said, Pillar, you are so kind. Your younger brother has treated you like this, and you still think for him. Silly Zhu chuckled and said, it's okay, it should be. Jia Jiaqiu said, if you ask me to split the family, then split it up, so this little brat won't get a penny. Silly column blush. Where else does his family have money? My monthly salary is 37.5 yuan, while He Yudong earns 38 yuan per month. Except for the food and drink of the three people, most of them went to Qin Huairu's pocket. It can be said that Silly Zhu's salary is all earned by Qin Huairu. Zhonghai said, alright, Pillar, you should first cultivate yourself well. He Yudong, this kid, is definitely afraid of your revenge. After he comes back, let's teach that guy a good lesson. This guy is really becoming more and more arrogant. Thinking of He Yudong, even Silly Zhu gritted his teeth in hatred and said, don't worry, Grandpa. I promise not to let this kid escape. Zhonghai said, alas, why can't he be like you, full of love for the people in the courtyard? There's still no blood relationship, and as you can see the pillar, it's like a white-eyed wolf. Zhonghai still felt that it was not chaotic enough and spoke out to provoke. Silly Zhu. It's all my dad's fault for being blind back then. Look at this kid, he's pitiful. Sigh. Watching Silly Zhu's reaction, Zhonghai felt extremely happy in his heart. The worse the relationship, the better. Without He Yudong's words, Silly Zhu can get closer and closer to himself. Zhonghai waved his hand and said to the crowd, alright, that's it for today. We'll talk about the donation later. Jia Jiaqiu said, Lao Yi, my family. Zhonghai said, I also have a responsibility for not managing He Yudong well. Let me make some stick noodles for your family. Silly Zhu glanced gratefully at Zhonghai. I thought to myself, it's better to be an old man. Why can't my immature younger brother learn another master? In the afternoon. Rainwater has returned. As soon as he walked into the front yard, Yan Bugui greeted him and said, Rainwater, go and see your brother quickly. Ah. What's wrong with my brother? Zhonghai said, your brother was beaten up by that white-eyed wolf from your family, and his nose and face were swollen from the beating. He Yudong. Rainwater asked for a moment. Zhonghai continued to sow discord and said, it's that heartless white-eyed wolf who fought your brother and hasn't come back yet. I'm afraid your brother might take care of him. This is so good. Oh, I'll go see my brother. Rainwater hurriedly walked towards the courtyard. Everything is developing in the direction it wants. Zhonghai watched this scene with great satisfaction. Zhonghai not only didn't worry, but also felt a little pleased. Can He Yudong indirectly help himself? Humph. However, things that made him lose face cannot be passed like this. I'll deal with that guy when I come back. On the other side, He Yudong has already boarded the train, destination guaranteed. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 004. He Daqing decides to return to the courtyard. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Until the evening. The others haven't seen He Yudong come back yet. Silly Zhu angrily knocked on the table and said, "Where did this ungrateful dog die?" Silly Zhu glanced at the wooden stick next to him and stomped his foot in anger. Brother, don't blame He Yudong either. He's already such a big young man and needs to save money to marry his wife, sighed He Rainwater beside him. If you ask him to support Huairu, then he must be unwilling. Humph. Silly Zhu snorted coldly and said with a displeased expression, He Yudong is doing well, but what about Qin's family? When our father adopted him back then, it was out of kindness. What's wrong with making him pay now? Can you help Qin's sister? What's wrong? He's not willing yet. If it weren't for my father's suggestion, he might have starved to death long ago. I don't know how to repay my kindness at all. I still want to split up with you and even hit your brother and me. Take a look at the palm prints on my face and the footprints on my body. He Rainwater, do you think that guy is still human? He Rainwater let out a faint sigh. One important point is that it must be Qin Huairu. He Rainwater. Brother, I also know what you think. But can Qin Huairu really marry you? And she also has 3 children. I, as a younger sister, can't say anything about you. Think for yourself. Having understood the causes and consequences of the situation, no one stood by the side of the rain. After speaking, walked towards the outside of the room. Silly Zhu watched as He Rainwater walked out. I still feel uncomfortable in my heart. Humph, I just saw Qin Jia's life was not easy. Yes, I'm doing good deeds. Silly Zhu found himself a rather forced reason, trying to appease himself. This night. He Yudong has not returned. The next day. He Yudong followed the address given by the silly pillar back then. I found the home where He Daqing currently lives. Dong dong dong. He Yudong knocked on the door. The person who came to open the door was a young man, probably 16 or 17 years old. Who are you looking for? He Yudong said, I'm looking for He Daqing. Looking for my dad. It seems to be the son of the White Widow. He Yudong smiled and said, yes. Then you wait. After a while, He Daqing walked out wearing a tattered cotton jacket covered in patches. The comparison with the boy's clothes in front of him is very obvious. It can be seen that He Daqing's life here is not easy. You are. He Daqing didn't recognize He Yudong at first glance. He Yudong smiled and said, Dad, I'm He Yudong. Ouch. He Daqing was taken aback for a moment, and then his expression on the face became joyful. Yudong, you're already so big. Why did you come over? He Daqing happily patted He Yudong's shoulder. Where's your brother and Rainwater? They didn't come. Back then, silly Zhu and He Rainwater came to find He Daqing, kneeling at the door for a long time without even seeing He Daqing's face. When mentioning these two people, He Daqing still felt a little guilty. He Yudong said, Dad, I came here alone to find you this time. They don't even know. Ah. What's going on here? He Daqing said, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Entering the room, there is also a teenage girl eating. From his appearance, this should not be He Daqing's child either. The White Widow is not here at this time. He Daqing looked at the two children and said, let's go talk inside the house. Line. He Daqing. Yudong, have you encountered something that cannot be solved when you come to me? He Yudong thought for a moment and said. I guess so, mainly because I don't want to see Lao He's family go bankrupt. Ah. What could be so serious? What happened to silly Zhu? He Yudong sighed and said, actually, I came to find you and go back this time. In the yard, Zhonghai now completely regards silly Zhu as an elderly person, calculating him everywhere. The key is that silly Zhu still likes Huairu and willingly helps the Jia family. I am currently a second-level fitter, earning over 38 yuan per month, while silly Pillar earns over 37 yuan per month. The days were supposed to be very good, but He Yudong told He Daqing in detail how silly Zhu helped the widow and how he threatened himself to help the widow. This time, if it weren't for my conflict with silly Zhu, it's unlikely that my newly paid salary would have gone to Huairu's hands. And there's Zhonghai, I really wish silly Zhu could do this, so that he can help silly Zhu in the future and focus on providing him with retirement. You say, if we continue to develop like this, will the Lao He family go bankrupt? As He Yudong finished speaking in one breath, He Daqing beside him remained silent. Snatching his cigarette. There are already 3 or 4 cigarette butts on the ground. Actually, he never thought the consequences would be so serious. Huairu. Isn't Huairu the wife of Jia Jiaqiu? Jia Jiaqiu passed away in an accident at the factory, and now Huairu has taken up her position. My monthly salary is 27.5 yuan, and I still eat the food brought back by the silly Pillar every day. That's not enough. I ask for money every day and cry that I can't make ends meet. He Daqing. Who would have thought that we had come this far? This is bitter for you and the rain. Looking at the emaciated He Yudong, He Daqing couldn't help but say. He Yudong smiled and said, compared to me, rain is more bitter. As a cook's sister, she is so thin that only skin and bones remain. He Daqing. I lit another cigarette and handed another one to He Yudong. I send you money every month, don't I? You can spend it with the rain, just ignore that silly guy like silly Pillar. He Yudong, an outsider, already knows about this. However, when He Daqing picked it up, He Yudong still pretended to be taken aback. What do you pay every month? Isn't it? We've never seen this money in these 10 years. He Daqing only felt a piercing pain in his heart. He knew without saying that the money must have fallen into someone's pocket in the courtyard. This not going back is not enough. Otherwise, Lao He's family will really go bankrupt. P.S. On the first day of the new book, I really need your great care. A flower, a review ticket are all encouragement for the author. I beg for everyone's help. Thank you. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 005. He Daqing returns, all birds confused. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After thinking for a long time, He Daqing has made up his mind. Let me go back with you. Persuading He Daqing is indeed not easy. He Yudong said, so let's go now. I'll go tell my wife. Line. He Yudong followed He Daqing to a clothing factory here. In no time, the White Widow came out. Appearance is not necessarily good. Looking, it can only be said to be acceptable, but simply looking at one's appearance can give a feeling of difficulty speaking. On one side, He Daqing accompanied his smiling face to explain the reasons why he had to go back. That's it shouldn't be long before we come back. Humph, dogs and mice are too meddling, the White Widow snorted coldly. Your son is your son, so my son is not your son anymore. How can we live after you leave? He Daqing said, oh my, it's not like you're not coming back. Look at what you're saying, it sounds terrible. I can't let my husband and I go bankrupt, can we? Widow Bai used the topic as a pretext and said, okay, He Daqing, you haven't treated my son like your own in these years, have you? He is indeed not a person with a good temper. He Yudong stood quietly waiting on the side. On the other side, several people from the courtyard gathered together. Silly Zhu. Where did He Yudong go? I haven't come back all night. Jia Jiaqiu couldn't help but interject, it's better not to come back in this lifetime. Such a person, silly pillar, you can't be soft-hearted. We're all going to split up with you, why are you still related to him? Zhonghai said, such a big young man, he should be okay. Alas, the New Year's bonus will be distributed soon. Why don't you go and collect it from Yudong? Huairu's eyes lit up and she said, yes, He Yudong is a third-level fitter and should have over 20 yuan. The tuition fees for pillar and stick meme have not been settled yet. Why don't you bring them back and borrow some from my family? Faced with Huairu, silly Zhu smiled in the next second and said, don't worry, Jia. Bang Ji is just like my son. His affairs are my own. I'll go now. Okay. A few outsiders couldn't help but shake their heads as they watched. This Huairu has completely taken care of He Yuzhu. No wonder people in their 30s still don't have a wife. In the afternoon, silly Zhu retrieved He Yudong's bonus in the factory. A total of over 22 yuan. The silly pillar holding money is a pleasure. Jia will definitely be overjoyed soon. Haha. The thought of Huai's delicate face made silly Zhu couldn't help but feel happy. At this moment, He Yudong and He Daqing were walking on the streets of the capital. The closer he got to the courtyard, the more solemn his expression became. He doesn't know how to face the silly pillar or the rain later. If he doesn't leave, the days now maybe we can still have grandchildren. He Yudong. Here we are, Dad. He Daqing stepped into this courtyard. I couldn't help but sigh and say, it's been over 10 years, this change is really significant. Yan Bugue, who was playing with tree branches, heard the sound and looked up as he asked, Comrade, are you looking for? Who? He Daqing. Yan Bugue's face was filled with astonishment. It's like seeing a ghost. He Daqing, brother He, is it really you? He Daqing smiled bitterly and said, who else can it be if it's not me? Long time no see, old Yan. Yan Bugue looked surprised and nodded, clearly not calming down from the fact that He Daqing had returned. He Daqing said, I have something else to do here. Let's have a drink with our old friend when we're free. Yan Bugue nodded awkwardly. After seeing He Yudong behind He Daqing, Yan Bugue understood now. This it was He Yudong who called back. That's not surprising. It's over, it's over. Yan Bugue is wholeheartedly calculating, although he rarely participates in the calculations of the courtyard, he is clear about the current situation. Zhonghai wants to retire and help silly Zhu relieve the Jia family. To gain the favor of silly Zhu. Jia family. A lifelike vampire. The whole family sucked the blood of silly Zhu and He Yudong. It's not too much to say it's just pointing at the silly pillar. Old lady, big things are not going well. What's going on? With a lot of age, why make such a fuss? Yan Bugue. Do you know who I saw just now? Who is it? He Daqing. He Daqing has returned. Ah. The three mothers also looked shocked. Two people entered the courtyard. As soon as I entered the door, I didn't see anyone else. Instead, I saw Huairu washing clothes. Huairu, with her head down, was vigorously washing clothes in the sink. Noticing someone looking at her, she looked up. Huairu's pupils suddenly enlarged countless times. What, Uncle He? Huairu's face turned pale from an instant. My mind is also blank. He Daqing appeared so unexpectedly. Countless ideas popped out from this moment. The Jia family is finished. I'm done with myself. Is it because He Daqing will have to live such a difficult life again in the future? But she hasn't had a few good days either. Until see He Yudong. Huairu couldn't help but grit her teeth. She said why He Yudong disappeared, and emotions were a big trick to hold back. Huairu looked at He Yudong with some reluctance. I wish I could go up and give He Yudong a bite in the next second. Jia's daughter. Law. Humph. He Daqing didn't give a good face. He Yudong said everything he should and shouldn't tell on the way. He Daqing naturally wouldn't give Huairu a good face. Hui gulped down a mouthful of water. Just at this moment, the door of the silly pillar's house opened. Jia, I have already retrieved the money and bought a chicken for Bangang. Why don't you come to my house for dinner tonight? You should bring back the money of that guy He Yudong. Jia. Seeing my own sister didn't make me happy. Following Huairu's gaze, silly Zhu's expression was equally brilliant. Can't say it, is it happiness? Or is it horror? P.S. Kneeling for flowers, evaluating tickets, are there any big ones watching? The little author is afraid of a single-player Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 006. Zhonghai's private embezzlement exposed. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. He Daqing, who had not seen him for many years, suddenly appeared in front of Silly Zhu. Silly Zhu froze in place. The air in the courtyard seemed to have calmed down, and everyone held different thoughts in their hearts. After a while, Silly Zhu's lips trembled and he said, You. Why are you coming back? For the departure of He Daqing, who abandoned his family and son, and the fact that he went to find He Daqing later on, he didn't even see He Daqing in person. Silly Pillar still remembers vividly. If you say you don't hate, it's fake. He Daqing couldn't help but say, if I don't come back again, the old He family will have no children or grandchildren. He, do you still have an old family in your heart? Look at your farting, He Daqing scolded without hesitation. Silly Zhu felt unhappy in his heart, but he didn't talk back either. The father and son looked at each other like this. It seems that no one wants to compromise. At the same time, Zhonghai's family. Zhonghai happily took out a box of cigarettes from his pocket and lit a cigarette, saying, that He Yudong hasn't come back yet. It's probably because we're afraid we'll take care of him. Auntie didn't respond and continued cooking. In Zhonghai's mind, the reason why He Yudong is so dominant is that he is forced to be angry. That was also temporary. No, it will scare people out of sight. That guy didn't ruin his good deed. I'll take a trip to Silly Zhu's house. Holding a cigarette and humming a tune, he pushed open the door and walked out. The movement of Zhonghai's family immediately attracted a few people to watch. Zhonghai's face was filled with joy. The pillars, Huairu, are all here. Pillar, give the money to. Give it to. He Daqing. Zhonghai's voice couldn't help but increase a lot. He had a ghostly expression as if he had seen a ghost. The cigarette in my mouth trembled uncontrollably and fell to the ground. My tongue was a bit tangled and I said, You. How did you come back? Faced with Zhonghai's inquiry, He Daqing did not give a good face. He Yudong had already made it very clear to He Daqing in the car. The reason why Silly Pillar has become like this is almost half of the credit given to Zhonghai. He Daqing's paralyzed face gave off a sneer, Oh, why don't you welcome me back? Or, did my return affect your calculations with Zhonghai? Zhonghai's body couldn't help but tremble as he took a cold breath. This sentence has too many meanings. Is it difficult? He Daqing knows now. That's not right. When Zhonghai saw He Yudong in front of He Daqing, Zhonghai's flexible brain melon seed reacted. He Yudong called back. Does that represent what he is doing? He Daqing already knows. What should I do to retire on my own in the future? Silly Zhu himself has been cultivated for a long time. Countless thoughts only surged out of Zhonghai's mind in an instant. After a brief moment of nervousness, Zhonghai pretended to be calm and walked up to He Daqing, saying, "Brother He, what are you saying?" "Ha ha ha, what kind of calculations can I have?" "Humph, Zhonghai, why are you still the master of the courtyard? I was really blind when I asked you to take care of silly Zhu." This. Zhonghai was momentarily stuttered by He Daqing's criticism. "I'm taking good care of the pillar. I'm sorry." He Daqing took a sip at Zhonghai. Silly Zhu stood up and said, "Dad, what are you doing? Why did you entrust someone to take care of me when you left the courtyard and asked someone to take care of me within 5 minutes of entering? Isn't this your responsibility? Now you're still relying on me, Grandpa. Do you have a conscience?" Silly Zhu, is this helping Zhonghai speak? He Yudong rubbed his nose and looked at Silly Zhu. It seemed like this kid really had one muscle. However, it doesn't matter, He Daqing will take action. He Daqing pointed at Silly Zhu and said, "You bastard, how can you talk to your father? Do you still know that you are my father? Why didn't you think about it when you didn't want me, rainwater, and rain building?" It's He Daqing's turn to be embarrassed this time. He Yuzhu said, "They don't treat me well enough. Why are you getting angry with them when you come back?" Okay. He Daqing pointed at the silly pillar. "So let me ask you, over the years, I've been sending 10 yuan to my family every month. Have you received this money?" Silly Zhu was taken aback and frowned. "Did you send the money?" Even the nearby Qin Huairu showed an incredible look. 10 yuan per month. She doesn't even know about this. Is it foolish Zhu who didn't tell himself? And the most anxious one is Zhonghai next to him. With a weight of 130 to 40 pounds, I was trembling uncontrollably. No need to think, it must have been He Yudong who went to find He Daqing and talked about the situation in the courtyard, and then He Daqing found out. He Yudong, what a great He Yudong. A mouse shit spoils a pot of porridge. The development of the matter is completely beyond the control of Zhonghai and is moving in another direction. Zhonghai frowned tightly and looked at He Daqing. He Daqing. No, right. Then I'll tell you, all 3 of your money has been embezzled by Zhonghai. I dragged him to take care of you, but I didn't let him take your money. What about this kind of person who can still be called the previous master? Damn it, a hypocritical and righteous dog. He Yuzhu's eyes were full of disbelief and he said, "Grandpa, is it true? Did you take the money?" Gulu. Zhonghai swallowed a mouthful of water. My heart feels itchy and uncomfortable like a cat scratching. What should I do? What should we do? Why don't you just make one mistake to the end? Didn't silly Zhu talk to himself just now? It must be like this. Otherwise, if this matter were to escalate, his reputation and reputation loss would be minor matters. Over 10 years, it's over 1,000 yuan. Eating a few years of prison food is not a problem. Zhonghai was strong and calm. The pillar was taken by an old man, that's right. But everyone is doing it for your own good. I absolutely have no selfishness in this regard. If you don't believe me, you can check it out. What is this? This time it was He Yudong's turn, and He Daqing and others were confused. For the sake of silly pillars, how many of them are good? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 007. He Daqing chooses to alarm Zhonghai Zhen. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The first one who couldn't hold it was He Daqing. He Daqing laughed angrily and said, "Do you still want to face Zhonghai?" Zhonghai said, "Brother He, you should listen to me. I really did it for the sake of silly pillars. The movement on this side of the courtyard is not small. Has attracted a lot of people's attention. A few people came to the courtyard one after another. I only saw Zhonghai and one person arguing with a flushed face. This is..." The old neighbor in the courtyard recognized this person's identity. Exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my goodness, it's He Daqing. He's the father of silly Zhu." Su Damao said, "TSK, He Daqing has all returned. Huh, it seems like there's a good show to watch." The bangs that hurriedly walked out were also taken aback. I hung my chin and didn't fall to the ground. How did He Daqing come back? Lu Haizhong muttered. At the same time, he also frowned. He Daqing is back. For these people in the courtyard, that's a bad thing. Everyone knows that silly Zhu and He Yudong are living well among the younger generation in the courtyard. Especially silly Zhu, with a monthly salary of 37.5 yuan, he can still bring food to his family. The most crucial thing is, silly pillar, silly not to pull a few. He Yudong is honest and easy to bully. After he is not in the courtyard, whoever is thoughtful will take advantage of the two brothers. Among them, the Jia family occupies the most. Didn't He Daqing go to Baoding and that white widow? Yeah, how could he suddenly come back? I heard that silly Zhu had been kneeling at the door for a whole day without seeing anyone from He Daqing. It should have been called back by He Yudong. Didn't you see He Yudong disappear yesterday? It's really true. The news of He Daqing's return is quite explosive. Of course, the most explosive thing is just the beginning. He Daqing smiled and said, "Neighbors, you have come at the right time. Let's give you an evaluation of Liao. Zhonghai. This guy's old face has completely turned black." He Daqing said, "The thing is that we are a respected gentleman. Everyone should know that when I left, I didn't say I didn't care about silly Zhu and He Yudong and his siblings. After I arrived at the guarantee, I stabilized and would send them some money every month. 10 yuan a month. You haven't heard of silly Zhu, have you?" Everyone shook their heads. To talk about silly pillars, I did earn a lot, but everyone knows what happened to the money and his brother He Yudong's money. How else can life be like this? Silly Zhu, who is almost 30 years old, can still have a wife. Even the street office doesn't know how many times they've talked to silly Zhu. On the one hand, there is a reputation issue, and on the other hand, who would be willing to be entangled with a widow? He Daqing raised his voice and said, "Don't even talk about you guys, even silly Zhu himself hasn't seen it. It's this righteous guy who took the money I gave to silly Zhu without permission." Ah! The whole audience remained silent, looking at Zhonghai incredulously. Zhonghai let out a faint sigh without refuting. Oh my goodness, did an old man really take it? This matter is quite big. I'll just say, even if I run away with the widow, I can't do this. I'll definitely take care of the children. Grandpa, no wonder he keeps helping silly Zhu. That's not his money. Under the authority of Zhonghai, everyone was only whispering. Do you acknowledge the existence of this matter, Zhonghai? I admit it, Zhonghai admitted. In the bangs, Yan Bugue looked at Zhonghai with disbelief. How could this guy do such a thing with a monthly salary of 99%? This is, however, 10 years ago, Zhonghai was not. Back then, life was difficult for anyone, and the same goes for Zhonghai. In addition, with He Daqing leaving silently, silly Zhu took rainwater to find him, but did not see anyone. This made Zhonghai think that this guy might never come back in his lifetime. So, Zhonghai took the money on his own initiative. Later on, the level of fitters in Zhonghai gradually improved, and they were not so short of money. But he had to continue holding this money. He had taken a wrong step and there was no turning back. He Daqing. Now everyone has recognized this guy's hypocritical face, right? Zhonghai put on a helpless look and patted his thigh. Brother He, can you listen to me for a few words now? Humph, you said. Zhonghai had already thought of a solution in his heart. Brother He, you really misunderstood me. Since you left, I have completely raised the pillar as my son. I have received your money a long time ago, but after thinking about it, Zhu's grade is still young, and holding so much money makes me uneasy. In the blink of an eye, Zhu was about to enter his wedding grade. I thought about saving money for him first, and when he wanted to get married, I would give him a chance to live a good life. You also know that, silly pillar doesn't matter, otherwise you would give the pillar a nickname of, silly pillar. I'm wronged. Aren't these things considered for pillars? Zhonghai pretended to feel heartbroken after being wrongly accused and said, Alas, who would have known that I had done something wrong with my good intentions, causing you to misunderstand, brother He. If you forget about it and you're back, I'll give you all the money for the pillar. As for this misunderstanding, I can't do anything about it if you think this way. After talking for a long time, it seemed like we were really having a heart-to-heart conversation with He Daqing, and it also seemed like we were really doing it for the sake of silly pillars. However, what kind of person is He Daqing? No matter how he said it, he would eat more salt than Zhonghai for a few years. If he were a good troublemaker, could he say he would follow the widow? He Daqing clapped his hands a few times. I really underestimated how shameless you are. Okay, I don't care what the reason is for you, but you took my money without permission, right? This is. Zhonghai replied. At the same time, he looked at He Daqing with fear, thinking about how to deal with the next difficult problem. He Daqing said, All right, there's no need to say more. I'll just call the police. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 008. Silly Zhu wants to sever ties with his father. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Is what you said true? The police will give an explanation later. Humph, I've been lying a lot. Believe your lies. Why do you think I'm a fool? He Yudong smiled and lit a cigarette. The bigger the situation, the better. Ah. Zhonghai said, Brother He. Don't report to the police, let's talk about what's going on. However, He Daqing had already made up his mind and said, There's no need to say more unnecessary words. I don't believe a single word that comes out of your mouth. Silly pillar, go call the police. Watching silly Zhu remain indifferent, He Daqing said, Go ahead, Zhonghai has embezzled so much money from our family. Aren't you angry? You have been living such a poor life these years, and there are many reasons behind Zhonghai. Now it's silly Zhu's turn to be in a difficult situation. Silly pillar, look at Zhonghai, look at He Daqing. For a moment, silly Zhu couldn't figure out the situation. One is giving birth to oneself, but without a biological father to support oneself. One is since He Daqing left, treating him like a foolish pillar is like treating Zhonghai as if he were his own son. Silly Zhu really has some confusion about the situation. Why do we say, Dad, we just heard an old man explain. What? He Daqing looked at silly Zhu in astonishment. This guy, is it really my own son? Is it really stupid or fake stupid? He Daqing. You're not even listening to me now, are you? How else can I harm you? Zhonghai seemed to have grabbed the last straw in a desperate abyss. Anxiously, he said, Pillar, it's a bit thoughtless for me to do this, but I'm all doing it for your own good. Think about how the old man treated you after your father left. This is just over 1,000 yuan in total. Can an old man do this? And why did I ask you to go on a blind date these days? It's just to make you live a good life. Upon hearing these words, a warm stream flowed through Silly Zhu's chest. He believed it. Ask yourself, Silly Zhu thinks that Zhonghai is good to him. Help oneself relieve the Jia family. Whenever something happens in the courtyard, Zhonghai always takes the lead. Moreover, I take extra care of myself in the factory. The fatherly love that I have never experienced from He Daqing, and the foolish pillar has experienced it from Zhonghai. And there's just over 1,000 in total, and an old man's monthly salary is 99%. There's no need for it. Looking at my own father. As soon as he returned, he had a conflict with an old man without distinction. Silly Zhu frowned and said, "Dad, just get the money back. If I report to the police, it will damage my grandfather's reputation. He has shown kindness to me, and I believe he is doing it for my good." He Daqing. This really my own son? He Daqing was so angry that his whole body trembled in place, and he calmed down for a moment. Okay, silly pillar, eat inside and out, really have you? If you don't go, will you? If you don't go, I'll go. Zhonghai, you old dog, don't expect to have a good life. Seeing He Daqing still insisting on reporting to the police. The knife hanging over Zhonghai's head still hasn't fallen. So go for it. Zhonghai squeezed out a few tears and said, "Woo, my life is really hard. I just think about the pillar, what's wrong with me? Why did you target me like this as soon as you came back, brother He? Yes, I snatched an old man's position from you back then, but I can't blame you. It was chosen by the neighbors in the courtyard back then. Okay, if you want revenge, retaliate. I have a good reputation for traveling around the world, and if I sit upright, I may end up being wronged." Seemingly complaining, it actually aroused sympathy from Lai Silzu. Sure enough. After listening to Zhonghai's heartfelt words, Silly Zhu was deeply moved in his heart. Just now, I suspected an old man. I am really not human. Silly Zhu shouted angrily at He Daqing, "No need to report to the police." He Daqing. Silly pillar, you. Silly Zhu. How did someone treat me over the years? I have a clear idea in my heart. It's like you. My own father. Are you sorry to say that? My biological father doesn't have anyone who treats me well. I left my words here today. If you report to the police, our father and son will sever our bond. I don't need you to take care of me, nor do I need you to preside over justice or anything. I'm doing pretty well now, and as for what will happen in the future, it's not your concern. The crowd in the courtyard sighed for a moment. Is this an interlude to sever ties with He Daqing? Not to mention He Daqing and others, even He Yudong at this moment is greatly confused. Silly pillars are fools, they are axes. But this is not a dark path, but rather a brain problem, right? For the sake of Zhonghai. Cut off ties with He Daqing. Only a foolish pillar can speak such words. Zhonghai felt his beating heart and exhaled a breath. Easy. In the end, he still firmly stood with the silly pillar despite his losses. Otherwise thinking of his own consequences, Zhonghai was trembling with fear. Glancing at He Daqing, when no one was paying attention, Zhonghai's mouth curved with a hint of joy. Being able to overcome the current difficulties is the key to being foolish. Zhonghai hurriedly walked between the father and son. Pillar, how can you talk to your father? No matter how much he says, it's your father. What's the point of severing ties? Do you deserve to do this to your father? Apologize to your father quickly. Silly Zhu roared, "Oh, my biological father. Who biological father can leave his son behind to live with a widow? I." He Daqing raised his hand. Silly Zhu. Fight, fight. Anyway, the whole world has to revolve around you, right? Whatever you say is what you say, isn't it? Am I wrong? Come on, you fight. He Daqing's eyes turned slightly red. Take a look at He Yuzhu, and then take a look at Zhonghai. Do you believe in Zhonghai and not me? Silly Zhu. Why are you still struggling with this problem? Look at how reasonable the old man is. What about you? I left the courtyard unclean as soon as I came back. If you want to go to the police, go ahead. After we go, we won't have any relationship anymore. Silly Zhu's tone was very tough. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 009. He Daqing's compromise and Qin Huairu's sense of crisis. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After all. Initially, He Daqing did leave without saying a word of greeting. After learning about it, Silly Zhu still didn't believe it. After waiting for a few days, I still haven't seen He Daqing come back. I searched around and found out He Daqing's address. Therefore, Silly Zhu took He Rainwater to Baoding and knelt at the door for a day and a night. I haven't even seen anyone. Therefore, in this world, there is only one person left who is good to stupid Zhu. Zhonghai. Initially, Jia Jiaqiu was promoted to level 3 worker, but this kid has a heavy mind. Zhonghai vaguely felt uneasy. So far, a perfect elderly person without parents appeared in Zhonghai's vision. He Yuzhu's family consists of 3. Silly pillar, the most suitable, human comparison axis, 1 tendon. He Rainwater there is nothing to say about every girl's family. As for He Yudong. Back then, He Yudong was still young, so naturally he couldn't catch the eye of Zhonghai. Later on, He Yudong's honest personality made Zhonghai give up. Turning all his gaze to Silly Zhu. Using Silly Zhu's money to treat him well is completely a bottomless transaction. Can Silly Zhu not be moved? Now suddenly mentioning Zhonghai's embezzlement of his own money. Silly Zhu naturally refused to believe it. Silly pillar axis. He Daqing changed the axis, and the latter was originally planning to alarm and handle it. Naiha's silly pillar is like a troublemaker. Silly Zhu, I am your own father. Do you want to sever ties with me now for the sake of an outsider? Silly Zhu felt a bit guilty when He Daqing shouted at him, but he still said, I'm not an outsider. He Daqing. My heart has completely cooled down. Line by line. I don't want to pursue this matter with you, just for the sake of Silly Zhu's face. Okay, I'll take it for you right away, Zhonghai quickly agreed. Then he panicked and went to the house to get the money. Counting money while feeling happy in my heart. If Silly Zhu really had a quarrel with He Daqing, wouldn't the biggest beneficiary be himself? Zhonghai is most happy to see this scene. No way. I need to inquire about He Daqing's reputation. If you really plan to live in the courtyard, Zhonghai doesn't mind doing so for the sake of retirement. After all, the performance of the silly pillar is obvious to Zhonghai. Such a devoted elderly person can't even be found with a lantern on. How could it be possible to give up just because of He Daqing's return? Impossible things. Zhonghai thought of good things in his heart and happily took the money out. Brother He, a little over 10 years, the total is 1,260 yuan. I have never tampered with this money, I have kept it all for Silly Zhu. Although it was a loss of over 1,000 of my own savings, if it could be exchanged for a foolish heart, then the money would be worth it. Zhonghai is not at all unhappy about this. I happen to be able to explain this matter clearly, without any worries. Zhonghai, you look great. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. I advise you to give up this idea as soon as possible. Zhonghai pretended not to understand and said, Brother He, take the money. When handing over the money, Zhonghai didn't forget to take a look at He Yudong. This brat. I'll deal with you later. Dog thing. After receiving the money, He Daqing said, Come back with me, Yudong, you also come. Okay. He Yudong followed in the footsteps of He Daqing into the room. Ding, congratulations to the host for successfully punishing Zhonghai. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the full level 8 fitter skill, full level section worker skill, and full level carpenter skill. He Yudong was quite satisfied with obtaining 3 practical skills at once. This era is different from the first 10 years to the last 20 years. There have been too many changes. To live a good life, one must closely follow the footsteps of the country, and these skills are obviously the foundation for He Yudong to stand firm. He Daqing is walking ahead. Entered the room. Entering his home again, which he had not returned to for over a decade, He Daqing was filled with thoughts for a moment. In the room the decorations have basically not been changed. A table has been stumbling and bumping for a long time, and is still functioning properly. He Daqing's heart is a bit congested. Silly Zhu's salary is 375 yuan, while He Yudong's salary is over 38 yuan. This adds up to over 70 yuan. Are you asking others to calculate and live like this? So much so that stupid Zhu, who is almost 30 years old, doesn't have a wife. More of it is self-blame. Dad, I've been sorry to you all these years. He Daqing said with tearful eyes. He Yudong said, I can't blame you either. When I meet someone with a heart, there's nothing I can do about it. Outside the house. The knife hanging around Zhonghai's neck was only completely removed at this moment. Zhonghai's face did not turn red and his heart did not jump as he said to the crowd. Okay, this matter is just a misunderstanding. I have already explained it clearly to He Daqing, and everyone should not discuss it recklessly. It's not good for the reputation of our quadrangle when it comes to rumors. Do you know? The crowd nodded sparsely in agreement. Oh, I don't know whose reputation it's bad for, Su Damao whispered. Su Damao, what did you say? It's okay, I said I know. Zhonghai said, alright, what should everyone do? Pillar, your father is calling you. Hurry up and take a look. You two haven't seen each other for over a decade, right? Your father is also doing these things for your own good, and I can understand. At this moment, Zhonghai was like a kind-hearted old father, guiding silly pillars. Silly Zhu looked at Zhonghai and said, Grandpa, I'm sorry, it's all my fault for causing you trouble. Hey, this silly kid. Zhonghai felt relieved and patted silly Zhu's shoulder. Go back and see your father, he said, tell your dad to stop arguing, okay? Got it. Silly Zhu nodded. Why can't his father be as reasonable as an old man? Sigh. Silly Zhu walked towards the room with his legs filled with lead. Halfway through, by the way, Qin Jia, take this money. Silly Zhu took out 10 yuan from inside. Qin Huairu said, Pillar, your father is back now, isn't this inappropriate? Silly Zhu. Hey, what are you saying? Besides, the child's tuition fee is important. Can't we let Bang Ji not go to school? Take it. The latter is to accept the money halfway. Looking at the back of Silly Zhu returning home. Qin Huairu bit her lower lip. Will there be many good days like this in the future? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 010. Accounting with Jia Jiaqiu. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. He Daqing's return was too sudden and had a significant impact. The first one is Zhonghai. Isn't this a loss for He Daqing? The second one. It goes without saying that it is the Jia family. Can we still keep borrowing money from silly Zhu like before? Can the food brought back in the evening still belong to the Jia family? Previously, Huairu basically relied on her mouth and pretentious appearance to make silly Zhu go crazy. Even using He Yudong's money to help the Jia family. What about in the future? Especially for food, others don't know. Huairu knows that the money she can save on food every night, when combined, is really a considerable income. Let's go back. Jia Jiaqiu seemed to understand what Huairu meant. Say to Huairu. The two of them returned to the Jia family. A few children went out to play. Jia Jiaqiu sat on a stool and said, "Has the tuition fee for the stick meme come down again?" Jia Jiaqiu said, "Alas, this old man won't come back long ago, he won't come back late. Give Zhonghai a hard blow as soon as he comes back. No accidents, that old man also knows about you and silly Zhu." Huairu did not deny it and remained silent. Jia Jiaqiu said, "It's all because of He Yudong, that little bastard. This is trying to force our Jia family to death. But don't worry too much, just keep the relationship with silly Zhu. I see that silly pillar. He doesn't like to see that old thing either. He might have to leave in a few days." Huairu said, "We can only do this for now. Let's first see what attitude He Daqing has." He family. He Rainwater rushed back after learning the news. As soon as he entered the door and saw He Daqing sitting on the stool, He Rainwater immediately moistened his eyes and said, "Dad." When He Daqing left, He Rainwater was only 6 or 7 years old. After so many years, can you not be excited to see your own father again? He Daqing also stood up excitedly. Father and daughter hugged each other. He Daqing touched He Rainwater's head and said, "Rainwater, why are you so thin?" He Daqing didn't believe what He Yudong said about He Rainwater at first. Can a cook's sister be hungry? After meeting the person from He Rainwater, He Daqing only felt heartbroken one after another. "I'm sorry to you all. Dad," sob. Silly Zhu sat on the side without any expression. He Yudong sat across from the silly pillar. Silly Zhu glanced at He Yudong. With a disdainful pout, even now, silly Zhu knows that it is He Daqing brought back by He Yudong. Bringing it back is a good thing, but my father is a bit unfriendly. Go, silly pillar, get some meat and make something delicious. Let's eat something together as a family. Oh. Silly Zhu lightly agreed and went out. I came back in no time, carrying 2 pounds of meat, a small bag of white noodles, and a bottle of fingio in my hand. Silly Zhu. I'll go cook. After finishing speaking, silly Zhu walked towards the kitchen. In the living room, the father and son have been chatting for a while and have gradually become acquainted. There's no need to mention the rain, it broke the bones and still connected the tendons. As for He Yudong. He Yudong's life was saved by He Daqing, and he was raised and raised. Without gratitude, it is definitely not possible. Not for a while. The food on silly pillar's side has been prepared. He Daqing hasn't been so happy for many years, so he poured a little wine for everyone. Come on, I'm happy today. Let's all have a drink together. Although it is still a home to secure a reservation. But how was your life and whether you felt at home? He Daqing knows for himself. You can tell by looking at the patches on the clothes this place is gradually becoming lively. On the other side. The long-lost calmness in the courtyard has been completely shattered. Madam, that's it. If nothing unexpected happens, that little bastard He Yudong should have told He Daqing everything. You said that I am an elderly person. If there is any reason why the Qing dynasty. After finishing speaking to the deaf old lady, Zhonghai couldn't help but feel a little worried. As soon as he returned, He gave himself such a welcome gift, almost sending Zhonghai into prison for a meal. Across from Zhonghai sat an old and frail guy. Squinting his eyes, all the wrinkles on his face were squeezed together, and his voice was a bit unpleasant. "What are you worried about? He Daqing has been away for so many years, and the closest person to silly Zhu is us. Otherwise, you're really going in. Just keep building a good relationship with silly Zhu. It's not that easy to disrupt anything, but I have to remind you. Don't make any mistakes, otherwise. It's basically difficult to find elderly people again." Zhonghai quickly nodded. Yes, the old lady was right. Why didn't I think of that? Come back as soon as you come back. Can he still hinder silly Zhu's idea? The deaf old lady said, as for He Yudong, this little brat. I really underestimated him. Zhonghai, on the other hand, completely ignored He Yudong and said, it's okay. It's probably because we're pushing too hard, and we can't just shout for He Daqing when he's too weak. He's honest, and it's not easy to deal with him casually. Well, I hope so. He Yudong didn't expect it to be like this. He hasn't even entered Zhonghai's field of vision. 1/3 of the bottle of wine goes down here. When he reached the middle of the meal, He Yuzhu calmly took out more than 10 yuan. I bought some meat for your bonus this year, and I'll give you the rest. He Yudong brought the money over. It's a bit less, right? He Yuzhu said, I'm your brother. What's wrong with taking some money from you? Noticing He Daqing's gaze, silly Zhu sneered and said, I have something to do, I'll use it. I didn't wait for He Yudong to speak. He Daqing patted the table and said, what did you do? Don't worry about it. I don't need you to tell me what I already know, said He Daqing, feeling resentful for not being able to turn iron into steel. Did you give it to Jia Dongxiu's daughter? In law next door. Silly Column was silent and a little guilty. He Yudong smiled and was infuriated. Silly Zhu, what kind of enchanting soup did the widow give you? You're not enough to show filial piety with your own money, so you're still giving her my money. Silly Zhu. Hey, you guy, how can you talk to your brother? My old He family. Silly pillar. He Daqing. How can I still talk to you? Do you think you're the boss? I have a clear understanding of the matter between you and that Huairu. How can I say you're wrong? Or are you planning to make our Lao He family go bankrupt? Silly Zhu was so scolded that he couldn't lift his head and nodded P.S. The new book period cannot be separated from every big support. If you have any small flowers, comments, or even minor concerns, you can bring them up. Kneeling down for a little bit of data, it's all for the support of the young author. Thank you all. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.